Your monthly subscription box from postflybox.com includes all the materials needed to tie a dozen flies, along with some extra goodies. The tinkerfly is a baitfish pattern that many saltwater fish species find hard to resist because of its profile, movement, and lifelike shimmer. It starts with a super strong forged hook. After getting the hook firmly secured in the jaws of your tying vise, load a bobbin with the spool of monofilament thread. Get the thread started on the hook shank behind the eye and take a dozen or so wraps rearward before snipping off the excess tag. For some shimmer, snip 3 to 4 strands of crystal flash free from the hank and find their midpoint. Lay that midpoint on top of the hook shank and take a few thread wraps to secure it. Pull the front segment of flash back, then take a few more wraps to lock that down. Return your thread forward to about 1/4 of the way down the hook shank. Snip a decent-sized clump of brown fiber free from the hank and find its midpoint, then snip the clump in half. Angle the butt ends of one of the clumps down on top of the hook shank like so, and take nice tight thread wraps to secure it. The idea is to have the fibers kick up at a slight angle. Pick up the second clump of fibers and tie it down in the same manner as you did the first. Ideally, you want one clump to be stacked immediately on top of the other. If you need to, squeeze the wraps in the fibers so they fan out a little on top of the hook shank. Take a few more thread wraps to cover up the butt ends of the fibers and smooth out the area. Pearl angel hair is used for the belly of the fly. Pull 2 or 3 fairly small clumps free from the packet and combine them into a single clump. Find the midpoint of this clump and tie it in on the underside of the hook. Pull the forward-pointing fibers rearward and pin them back with wraps of tying thread. This will form the pearlescent belly of the fly. Try to get equal amounts of material on either side of the hook. Now, pull just a single clump of the silver angel hair from the packet and snip it roughly in half. Trim one of the halves off so it's about 2 inches in length and anchor its midpoint to the top of the hook shank behind the eye. Once again, pull the forward-pointing material back and take thread wraps to hold it there. You can then pick up the second clump, trim it to about the same length as the first, and secure it to the underside of the hook in the same manner. The 2 clumps together produce a nice shiny face on the fly. Get hold of your whip finish tool and use it to do a 5 or 6 turn whip finish behind the hook eye, seat the knot well, and snip your tying thread free. A gel-type superglue is just the ticket for securing eyes to the fly. You only need a small amount. Apply the adhesive to the near side of the fly, immediately behind the thread wraps. Retrieve a single eye from the provided sheet, place it on top of the adhesive, and hold it there under pressure for a few seconds. This should set the adhesive and secure the eye. You can then repeat the process on the far side of the fly, doing your best to align the second eye with the first. A drop of head cement applied to the front edges of the eyes and the thread wraps will greatly increase the fly's durability. To trim the fly to shape, you may find it easier to first remove it from your tying vise. Long, sharp scissors will make the job of trimming a snap. Begin by establishing the outline of the fly, roughly a teardrop shape, bulbous in the front and tapering down in the back. Then, make cuts with your scissors in line with the brown fibers to produce a ragged rather than uniform trailing edge. You can then put the fly back in your tying vise and admire your handiwork. As good as this fly looks in the vise, it looks even better as it moves underwater.